How is everybody doing tonight? I know you guys have been sharing our topic tonight because we have everybody's favorite attorney.
And by the way, this is Wednesday night OWCP chats with Chris and Gini. Gini
Eric.
forgot to tell you who we are, but that's who we are.
And Eric.
And Eric Blowers, attorney Eric Blowers, is going to be here. So tonight I officially have no responsibility whatsoever.
Let me just get on over.
Hey, welcome to the broadcast. Go ahead and get involved here.
Hello, everybody.
Lord.
All right. No, I already said it. All right. What we're going to do. All right. So for you guys that are on here, don't ask him questions about schedule awards. We are going to be doing that on another time, probably on a podcast. So you guys know.
So you can ask the question, but don't expect to get a thorough answer tonight because our topic is going to be third-party injury. So if you're a federal employee and you were injured most of the time, and Eric will probably contradict me on this, but I think most third-party injuries are car wrecks. Probably most of them, but there's probably exceptions to that where there's other third-party injuries. But it's a big topic, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Because too many of you get into car wrecks and use your own auto insurance and call a PI lawyer, and next thing you know, your DOL case is hosed. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. What housekeeping things do we have? And let's bring Eric on.
All right, so you guys know I just shared the flyer today for the Sip and Social in Manhattan on the 28th of March. And then the Sip and Social for Norwood on April 4th. So pay attention because I'll be sharing that weekly. And we will be there. Eric will actually be at the Norwood office for April 4th. He already came to New York and he doesn't have time for us.
Fun. Well, I mean, while he's spending time in the Boston area, he can come hang out with us a little bit.
Yeah, he doesn't have time for us little folks. So let's bring him on.
All right. Big round of applause.
Got to take the mute off too.
For Eric Blowers. Hang on, Eric. You're muted. I don't know why.
There you go.
Eric, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How y'all?
Excellent. So you're in a hotel in Boston tonight? Where are you at?
I am in a hotel in Boston, and I'm going home tomorrow night. So, yep, it's here for this week. Working out of our Boston office. Yep.
All right. Well,
I don't travel as much as you guys. You guys travel more than me.
Yeah. Hey, hello to the Greenville, South Carolina office. So we have Eric tonight to talk about third-party injuries because people get hurt driving all the time. There's some funny rules, like if you're a rural carrier, it's different if you're a city carrier. If you're an FBI agent, the rules are different than others. So let's get into that. Let's start with this, Eric. What's the number one problem that you see when people treat a car accident on the job like a personal injury?
Well, I mean, you alluded to it. They tend to call, God, what's that big law firm down there in Florida? Murphy. What do they call
Morgan and Morgan.
Morgan and Morgan. Yeah.
Murphy and Murphy.
Yeah, I get so many people who are already signed up with Morgan and Morgan who have no idea how to handle the federal workers' compensation part of the case. And I know we've had this conversation before that the benefits that you receive from OWCP are much better than the benefits you receive from the settlement on a third-party case. A lot of times in a third-party case, and you're right, Chris, you said it earlier that most third-party cases are car accidents. They absolutely are. I would say more than 50% are probably postal carriers who get struck from behind. It happens all the time. People come over hills and hit these poor postal carriers all the time.
Yeah.
And they tend to go to a personal injury attorney who knows nothing about OWCP. So they find themselves a month or two later, treating at whatever facility they're treating at and I've had them, they've never even filed an OWCP claim. So they're out of work. They end up settling a case and giving most of the money to the government. And these personal injury attorneys, I mean, God bless them, they're trying to help people, but they don't understand the process. And right. They end up with significant credits against future benefits. And what that means is that you are not going to get paid by OWCP, nor are they going to pay for your medical care, nor are they going to pay you a schedule award until that credit is exhausted. It's pretty complex process. We just had a case today where I'm pretty sure we settled it, but this poor lady was involved in a car accident. She had about $175,000 in damages. The at-fault party had $30,000 in coverage, and she had zero uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage.
And you think everybody should have that, right? Under and
Oh my God,
uninsured?
yes. Yeah,
right?
I can't get enough uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. I think I have $1 million policy. I know how many people are out there on the road who do not have insurance. It's ridiculous. I heard the statistic a few months ago was 13%. I think it's up to 20%. Florida is particularly bad.
I was going to say that
without insurance.
Correct.
There's other states that have, the major metropolitan areas, of course, and I've seen tons of hit and runs. When you have a hit and run, you've got to go to your own insurance. There's nobody else to go to. I see these all the time where a postal worker gets in an accident, the person at fault takes off because they don't want to, they don't want to get in trouble. So these poor people. Now, let me say something. One thing about uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. You do not have to pay OWCP back when you tap into that benefit, because that is not third party, that is first party. So because it's your benefit, you don't have to pay the government back. Again, it gets very complex in these settlements. You have to involve the Solicitor General's office with the Department of Labor to get approval to settle a case. It gets very complex very quickly. We, if need be, and we've taken some of them to trial, it's very, very seldom we have to go to trial. These things are generally clear liability. I've seen elevators fall on people. I've seen people fall off of docks and get traumatic brain injuries at postal distribution facilities because the truck driver, who's a third-party truck driver, pulled away when she wasn't supposed to. And a lot of times, claims examiners don't recognize when you have a third-party case. We see them quite often. They do get complex, and sometimes they say it's a third-party case when it's nowhere near a third-party case. So,
on the CA1 form, it asks, is this a third-party claim? Right? Was this caused by a third party? Right? Do you see a lot of people saying no when the answer is yes?
Yes, I think we do, but I can't necessarily attribute that because the claimant now files their CA1 online.
Yeah,
I don't think they know what a third-party case is. And it is confusing, whether or not a third party is at fault, because like in the state of North Carolina, where I have one office, if you are 1% at fault, you collect nothing. That's called true contributory negligence. So in that state, basically the only cases we'll take are cases where rural carriers are hit from behind. It's 100% liability for the person that caused the accident. Some states have comparative negligence. Some states have 50 plus 1% negligence. I mean, every state is different. But some states have the same standard. So there's a lot that goes into it. I've seen some horrific accidents with postal. I had one a couple of years ago. The lady was killed instantly in North Carolina. I had another one in Wisconsin where the gentleman was on his way to work, and unfortunately a young kid who was coming back from milking cows pulled out in front of him and he was killed. So these cases run the whole gambit from minor injuries to death. They do.
So let's talk about what if you got into an accident, if you're new and you have no clue. Let's talk about how the process starts and how everybody gets to Eric. So you can go ahead and start with the first part.
Well, are you still doing third-party claims, Eric? Before we even go past that,
we are.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
fantastic.
We do now. A lot of them we won't take if it's like a lower back injury. That's great for federal injury centers. We will refer people out and we'll work with the attorney we refer them to, because a lot of these attorneys have no idea how to handle an OWCP case. I would rather get the call and refer the person to a personal injury attorney and say, we will help you get the OWCP portion of the claim accepted. As I keep saying, the OWCP benefits are much better, because if you have a back injury and 10 years from now you aggravated or exacerbated somehow, OWCP is still responsible for that. If you get a back injury in a car accident and you settle the case next month, you're done. There's no one else to go to for liability. Yeah. So because OWCP protects you or covers you for life, that is the best benefit you can possibly get. Don't let personal injury attorneys say, we don't do that, find somebody else. You should not be paying two separate attorneys.
No way. Well, I mean, so the best thing is call you, and if you need a personal injury lawyer, you'll find them.
Yes, and we've
You'll
got
do
contacts
that.
across the country. Yeah, we'll make the referral over to personal injury attorneys and work with them, because you guys know how much has to be done up front on these on these OWCP claims to ensure you're getting the requisite treatment you need, and you're going to a federal injury center or a physician who's approved by OWCP. The claim is written up properly. If you're out of work, how to properly. I mean, there's just so many issues that come up. And I hate to say it's second nature to me. I think of all of them at once. I don't go through step-by-step process, but personal injury attorneys have no idea how to deal with any of that.
Another thing that I know intimately about personal injury, because I had spent 20 years doing it. She spent a lot of time in personal injury as well before we got into this, is that personal injury lawyers refer their clients to doctors that they know, not doctors that are good at OWCP. They refer to doctors who refer to them a lot, or to doctors who are willing to take these huge reductions in payments. And so they're referring to doctors that are doing the bare minimum to get by, and they're used to doing a minimum job to get paid. And that's also that's a compounding problem for these federal patients, because you don't ever get your claim accepted. Even if you try, it's not going to happen.
Well, you're right. A lot of these personal injury attorneys have relationships with physicians, and they tell the physicians the physician will get paid when the claim is settled. It's a letter of
protection.
Letter of protection.
LOP.
So the PI attorneys, I mean, that's their business model, is to get doctors. And I hate to say that they try to drive up the damages, but I mean, that's what they're doing, is they're getting you to the doctor as many times as possible to drive up the damages. But a lot of times the people need to be out of work, and they don't know how to get them out of work. These people cannot reach, especially rural carriers. And I know Chris and Ginny, we had this conversation before about the insurance that rural carriers carry on their personal vehicles.
Right.
You've got to, I know it's complex, but you've got to ensure that your vehicle is going to cover you in the event of an accident if you're at fault.
And this is for rural carriers, right?
Rural carriers, or city carriers don't use their own vehicles, but some insurance policies don't cover you if you use your vehicle for work. And people,
so you better ask that question.
Right. People try to reduce their premiums by telling the insurance agent that they just use it for personal pleasure. But if they're using it for work, God bless, tell your carrier and ensure that you are covered. Because if you're not covered, I had that case many times where the person who caused the accident has no insurance. The insurance company for the rural carrier is not going to cover it because it was outside the scope of the policy contract. So, you can really get in trouble pretty quickly if you're not careful about what you have to ensure you have coverage for.
So I have a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you that I know the answer to, but they want to hear from you. So everyone else besides rural carriers, you are in the performance of duty essentially when you get to your workplace, like in the parking lot, right? And I'm generalizing on purpose, but when you're
a lot of questions like that,
right? Well, but when you're a rural carrier, when are you in performance of duty if you drive your own vehicle?
It's interesting. I have a case on appeal right now on this very, very issue. And OWCP is wrong. The ELM, and Employee Labor Relations Manual of the U.S. Postal Service, says it's portal to portal. From the time you leave your driveway until you get back to your driveway, you are in the performance of duty. I have a case where a gentleman left work and went 650 feet outside of his direct route to the office, went into a Bojangles, walked out, slipped on the ice, and messed up his shoulder real good. OWCP is trying to say that's outside the scope of employment. I've had a lot of cases with ECAB, which is the highest adjudicatory body in Department of Labor under federal workers' compensation, on the issue of scope of employment. I've had these issues with the TSA agents who are on a bus going from the terminal to the parking lot, whether they're within scope of employment. I've had a postal carrier in Indiana who was walked out. This was during COVID now. She walked out to her car to have lunch in the middle of the night, walked out to her car to have lunch, walking back in, and she's hit by a postal truck. And they said that was outside the scope of employment. Fortunately, I cited the case. I just won an ECAB, and we got that claim accepted.
Hold on, she was a rural carrier who got hit by a postal truck?
It was a distribution.
But a postal employee.
Correct.
That was hit by by
a
mail truck.
Postal 18-wheeler. Yes.
And they were going to dispute that claim?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, they denied
Sad.
it. They denied it initially.
Good Lord.
So that is a very I hate to say I'm an expert in scope of employment, but I am. I've become an expert in scope of employment. I've not lost any of these cases to date. So I'll argue that all day. I mean, rural carriers, from the time they leave their driveway until the time they get home, unless there's a frolic and detour, meaning you go way outside where you're supposed to be, you're going to be covered.
Hey,
and
let me ask you something.
That happens.
You mentioned that case, the third party, I'm calling it third party, but that shuttle where they were having to park off site.
Yes.
Right. And that went to ECAB.
Twice.
First, so talk about the case, but was that a third party claim? Because it was okay. Can you talk about that case?
Yeah. It was, I don't want to say the city, but these two TSA agents had to take a bus from the terminal to the employee parking lot. And the bus was in an accident. Two TSA employees were injured.
Who owned the bus?
The city.
Okay.
So it was not the federal government. The city owned the bus. The airport was owned by the city.
Making it a third party.
Making it a third party.
Okay.
So two of them were injured. Both of them filed claims. OWCP accepted one and OWCP denied the other, which, under equal protection, there's no way you can possibly do that. And I took it to ECAB once, won, came back down, went back up to ECAB, won, came back down. Finally, now this lady's getting about 5 years of back pay.
Wow.
So it's taken a long time, and she's been without pay for probably a year and a half because we took her off of OPM disability retirement, knowing that she was going to get paid by OWCP.
Right.
So these cases get complex real quick, and OWCP, they're not allowed to compare cases. So and that's a perfect situation where they can't take the precedent set in one case and use it in another case unless it's from ECAB. So I took that to ECAB twice and won both times. And they finally accepted the case she was within performance of duty. And that is actually now the standard for performance of duty. The case was probably 2 years ago.
So, okay. Shifting gears a little bit. Is anybody else hearing feedback? Eric, are you hearing feedback?
No.
I am.
Okay. It's just us. All right. So, let's talk about the responsibility of the injured person when they get into a third party accident. OWCP will send a letter, right, that says it's your responsibility to pursue the third party, right?
Yes.
What do you do when you get that letter? Ignore it?
No. Call somebody. I see that letter sent out a lot when it should not be sent out. And I'll call the claims examiner and say, hey, if you want to sue, go ahead. There's no third party liability here. Or in a situation like North Carolina, if the person is 1% at fault, they collect nothing. So in North Carolina, I see a lot of those. Virginia is the same way. I think there's 4 or 5 states that are true contributory negligence states. I think Washington, D.C. is one. But a lot of times the claims examiners are not attorneys. So they think they have a third party case and they'll send out the letter. But if you get that letter, you need to call somebody and talk about that letter.
In other words, call you.
Or a personal injury attorney, but because they know scope of employment. Every attorney knows scope of employment. But yeah, you got to figure out whether or not this is truly a third party case to begin with, and whether you were within scope of employment.
Right. Okay. We have any questions?
Yeah, there's a guy named Philos. He said, I'm a mailman who fell on a guy's step. I dislocated my shoulder. Should I go third party?
Great question. I see this all the time. Let me tell you a story about one case I got. A poor lady mail carrier was a city carrier in Texas, was going between houses, and she'd walk through the front yards because she had to go up the steps and put the mail in. She walked between houses and somebody was backing up out of their driveway and ran her over. Third party, clearly no issue there whatsoever. People fall in holes. They fall on steps. They fall on everything. I've seen, string run across the front yard that people trip on, or, people being chased by dogs and they fall. Right. Every case is different, and you have to apply the state law of the state in which you are in. In like North Carolina, if you fell on a step and it was icy, if I were the homeowner, I'd be arguing assumption of the risk. You knew the risk when you walked up there, which is the defense to negligence. So every case is a little bit different, and you really have to talk to an attorney about that. Some attorneys, especially young attorneys, will take a lot of these cases just hoping for a quick settlement, but they get the settlement and they never pursue the OWCP portion of the case. Again, I can't take every one of these third-party cases. We've done a real good job in settling probably about 75% of the cases we have right now. We've only gone to trial on a couple, and I mean, it's not difficult. Everybody kind of admits liability. It's always a damages case. They don't like the fact that the person can't go back to work, but the post office does not want somebody coming back to work unless they're full duty. And
he did say the step under me broke. He was warned, but the fix was not done properly.
so that in that case, you probably have negligence, duty, breach of duty, causation, damages. Yeah, you probably do, and that's probably. And what you're actually going after is a person's homeowner's insurance in that case. So that very well could be a third-party case. And you know, again, the first thing I look at is what are your damages? How badly were you injured?
Are all homeowners insurances, do they all cover these types of things?
Generally speaking, homeowners policies are pretty inclusive. You can use homeowners policies in 20 different situations, but you can also use your personal automobile policy in different situations. If you are crossing a street and you get hit by somebody and that person takes off, you can go to your own insurance for coverage because you were injured at the hands of a vehicle, and that policy usually covers you in that situation. So again, first thing I do when I get a case is I want to see the policy. I want to see what the policy says. I want to read the contract language. And then you have to compare it. Sometimes they write policies that are in violation of state law. So a lot of times if I get a case in a state I'm not licensed in, I'm only licensed in 2 states. I have one attorney who's licensed in 2 states. Rachel's licensed in South Carolina. I'm in Ohio. We got Massachusetts. We got Florida. We got Louisiana. So we got a bunch of different states. But we also have a lot of attorneys we associate with. Texas especially. I'll call Deborah in a heartbeat to get her involved. And it's just a matter of, and I've probably hit 20 other states with associations with other attorneys on those cases. So we've got the necessary resources to get somebody on the case. Got one in Utah right now. It's a pretty big case. And I immediately associated with a firm out there because it's a big case. I don't want to screw something up. So I know my limits, and I know when I got to get somebody else involved. And I don't hesitate to get somebody else involved.
So if the guy in Utah needs some help, I'm sure Gini would be happy to volunteer.
Sure she would. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's actually poor girl's a TBI. It's actually a real bad case.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So this is going to be a real common question. What about dog bites?
And it happens every day. You know that.
Everybody else, everybody that doesn't know, I mean, like Eric and I talk all the time. What? Yeah, I know. Every time I bring up dog bites, that's the response I get.
That face
every time. But everyone else needs to hear it because it's complex, right?
Yes.
It's not an easy answer, is it?
Are you talking about the White House right now?
No, Secret Service agents are probably not. They're probably exempt from this.
Oh no! The dog owner is liable, and I just read a couple hours ago that that dog at the White House has bitten 24 people. So
holy cow!
Oh yeah.
Get that dog a muzzle.
Mostly Secret Service agents. So yeah, I mean that's the perfect situation. Nobody wants to think about it, but you could sue the president personally because it's his personal dog.
Because he owns it.
Yeah.
But what about just a random homeowner like me? Let's say my dog goes out and goes crazy and bites somebody.
I hate dog bites. A lot of states have what's called the 1 free bite rule. So unless you can establish a pattern that a particular animal has engaged in dangerous conduct in the past, and the family has, or the homeowner has not mitigated that danger, you may be able to go after them if they've not mitigated the danger, but they give 1 free bite. So the first time somebody's bitten, there's no liability. That's
okay. So if I'm a letter carrier and I get bit by somebody's dog, it's my thing to say, well, that was the freebie, no problem.
Right.
Forget that I'm bleeding and part of my cap is gone. I got to go to the ER.
Yeah, North Carolina is that way. I'd say about half the states in the country have 1 free bite rule. Yeah.
That's a ridiculous rule.
All right.
I mean, look, I've got a vicious looking dog. I don't want her to bite anybody, but if she does, how's that not my responsibility just because she never did it?
I don't like dog bites, and you guys know. I mean, you've referred cases over to me where somebody's had half her face bitten off before by somebody's dog getting in. I mean, some of them are horrible. I've got one client in one client who had her leg the lower leg literally ripped off.
Yeah.
With the calf all gone, and the bones were remaining, and the people at fault moved out of their apartment next day and went very far south. They just took off. They had no insurance anyway. So it's and some dangerous breeds like pit bulls and German shepherds may be exempt from the one free bite rule in certain states.
We have a German Shepherd.
And she's dangerous. Everyone tell your friends. My dog is dangerous.
Every state's different on what is exempt under the one free bite rule. If they have one.
So where would they find that information instead of calling? Obviously,
just Google one free bite in Texas or Google one free bite in Montana.
So just pick your state. One free bite rule state.
Yeah. But a lot of times I see that these postal carriers have been on the job for so long. They know the dangerous dogs. They know who else they've bitten. They know if there's a history there. So, I don't like dog bite cases. I just don't like them, but it is something that we have to deal with. And I usually refer those out.
Okay. So I have a fun question. This isn't fun if you're the person this happened to, just by the way. But our Thousand Oaks, California office asked this question. What about if a postal carrier, a letter carrier, it says cuts the lawn. I'm not sure what that means, but
I didn't get
maybe walks in the lawn and steps in a gopher hole on a homeowner's front lawn.
I had a case in Alabama where a postal worker, as part of his duties, were to mow the lawn, and they gave him a lawnmower to do it. And he got on the side of a hill, and the lawnmower rolled over on him. So there are janitorial staff in the post office who do that kind of thing.
Oh, so that's like mowing the lawn at the post office, not at somebody's house. So
Oh,
that wasn't a typo. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. But it says step in a gopher hole on a homeowner's front lawn. How would we handle it? I think a gopher hole, you got to have a breach of duty to prove a negligence case. I'm not sure that there's a breach of duty if you didn't, as a homeowner, know about the gopher hole. That's almost an act of God that there's a gopher hole in your property.
Right. Maybe it wasn't even there yesterday and you didn't know it's there today. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Again, every case is different.
Right.
Yeah. Those of you that are just hopping on, because there's a whole bunch of you hopping on, this is federal attorney Eric Blowers, who handles third-party accidents. He handles schedule awards.
Specifically for the lower extremity, right, Eric?
I handle schedule awards. Yeah, I mean, I'll handle shoulder replacements too.
Right.
Upper extremity is more challenging. Not challenging, but there's not a whole lot of money. I mean, I had somebody today who you all know call up. They got carpal tunnel syndrome in both hands. It's a 2% schedule award. I mean, they may be looking at $5,000 or $6,000, and we'd be putting in hours and hours and hours to get a claim like that accepted. I try to ensure that the services I'm providing are beneficial to the claimant and the client, as opposed to just beneficial to me. So that's why we just specialize in lower extremity.
I think some of these schedule awards could be so low that if you had to fly out of state to maybe get the measurements, you lost money on the award.
Yeah.
And so you'll tell people that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Our intake, we have a whole intake staff now. And thank God, I mean, we're doing very well. We've got a lot of people who figured out that we specialize in this. And I was telling you before we went on about the hearing I had today. I mean, these very technical issues, OWCP at the district office level do not understand them. And people leave a lot of money on the table. 93% of claimants are not represented. So 7% of claimants are represented. I've told you guys this 100 times. I bet I could go through half the schedule awards for joint replacements in the last 10 years if somebody was not represented and find extra money there. Absolutely.
You could add a zero probably lots of times. Adding a zero. Right?
Yeah, it's not just OWCP. It's their second opinion doctors. It's their district medical advisors. It's their referee physicians. I mean, today I was arguing with a referee physician and the district medical advisor who are both wrong.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love getting people money. I love helping people. And you are entitled to it. And with third-party cases, you're entitled to money if there's money there. So, but more importantly than on a third-party case is getting the OWCP claim accepted. So in 10 years, when you have another problem, it's covered by OWCP.
So if you wanted to get an OWCP claim accepted, what would you do, Eric?
Why is it echo?
What kind? What kind of case?
The kind that Federal Injury Centers takes care of.
Well, if you're talking,
that was a rhetorical question.
It is, but there's a clear distinction between a CA1, a traumatic injury, and an occupational claim. How we approach them, there's a lot of legwork that goes into a CA2. There's employee statements, there's acquisition of job duty responsibilities, there's acquisition of prior medical records. I mean, we put together a big package to try to avoid a claim being denied and get this claim going forward, get the person treatment or get the person a schedule award. I get calls from people all the time who have no idea what a schedule award is, have no idea if they're in an accident that they have to pursue liability. You're right. They get the letter, Chris, saying, hey, you must pursue liability. And in some of those instances, I call OWCP and say, I'm not going to pursue liability. You can pursue liability. They never do. They never do, but you can tell them that.
So let me just pause for a second. So of course, because we mentioned schedule award, we've got some people asking schedule award questions, and I just want to say we're not going to handle that tonight. However, you're all in luck. There's going to be a great treat. So Gini and I have a podcast called the Breaking OWCP Podcast with Chris and Gini, and you can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you listen to them, you can hear it. And if you go download our podcast, pretty soon, Eric's going to be on our podcast, and all we're going to talk is schedule awards. And I think it's probably going to be a 2-part podcast. I don't think we can get it all done in 1 hour.
Can I come to Florida? It's 40. It's like 30 degrees up here right now. I want to get out of this cold.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
You can sleep in Ellie's bed.
Thank you. I do see some of the questions about schedule awards. We always get the same question. Radiculopathy is potentially a schedule award. Sciatica is a form of radiculopathy. So they get very complex. We can talk about that during the schedule award podcast because there are a lot of issues. You guys know that. And
and if any of you want information or you think you've reached MMI and your doctor has said it and you think you're ready for a schedule award, just message me your number and your real name and what body part you need to go after for the schedule award. That way I can get you over to Eric.
Right.
We have Harold Johnson Sr. He says, I'm a truck driver for the post office. I fell through a hole on the loading dock because someone covered the hole with a piece of cardboard. I am now awaiting surgery on my lower back and cervical discectomy on my neck. The surgery was denied.
So I don't mean to make light of this, but for everyone out there, cardboard does not support human body weight. Who would do such a thing? Let's cover the hole.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that there's going to be third-party liability there. It's a postal facility. A postal worker probably put the piece of cardboard there. You cannot sue another postal employee for third-party liability because the doctrine of respondent superior would come into play, meaning the post office is liable. Well, if the post office is liable, all that means is you're going to get your OWCP claim accepted. So if another postal, and I have them all the time. I've had cases where people get in fights and they get injured pretty badly. We've had shootings at the postal facilities. I think it was one in Memphis or Nashville last year I got called on. But, an intentional tort is different. So you can probably go after the person, but they generally don't have anything to, they don't have any money to pursue. They're not a good defendant. So.
Todd said, I've been bit twice, and in both cases, the dog came through the closed door from inside of the home and attacked me. Both dogs busted through the screen door. Is the homeowner responsibility if they know the dog is or can be aggressive and not reasonably preventing something like that from happening? One was a large pit bull and the other was a huge chow chow.
Yes, the homeowner is liable depending upon the state and, ascertaining whether or not it was a first bite for those dogs. But again, most states have a list of dogs that are considered dangerous, ab initio, meaning from the beginning. So the one free bite rule does not apply to them. Just Google one free bite in your state and Google also dangerous dogs under the one free bite rule in your state. So you can do your own little research initially to see if there's even anything there.
What else you got?
Nothing here yet.
Missing 2/3 of my meniscus and my knee. Curious what that would be. A meniscal injury. That's a schedule award question. So
right.
Meniscals can be up to 7%. But anytime you have, a lot of these cases build upon one another. I see all the time in third-party cases. And I'm glad that question was asked. In third-party cases, people, break their shoulders, break their hips, break their knees, break their legs, whatever, and end up with joint replacements. The personal injury attorney, if you don't go to somebody who knows what they're doing, they have no idea that you're entitled to a scheduled award as a result of the third-party case.
Right.
And that counts as damages in the third-party case. These PI attorneys have no idea how to properly calculate or drive up damages. That's the whole goal of a PI attorney, is to drive damages to get a higher settlement. I would say in probably 60 to 70% of our cases, we're going for policy limits. We've had everything from an Amazon driver hitting a postal worker from behind who had her arm in the box and literally snapping her arm in half. And the Amazon driver was not licensed, to head-on collisions where the person's killed. We see it all the time. I think the statistic is 26,000 postal accidents per year.
I heard that too.
So there's a lot, and again, I can't do them all. But if somebody calls me, I will spend 5 minutes on the phone with them and tell them what they need to do, or get them to the proper person to help them. And if I think we need to be involved in the OWCP case, we'll do that.
It's funny. You said that the thing about personal injury lawyers, right? Well, back in my old life, I used to teach PI lawyers how to increase the value of a PI case. Am I a lawyer? See, that's a problem.
Are you asking if you're practicing law when you're doing that?
No, I'm just saying I'm not a lawyer, and
No.
I'm teaching lawyers to do this. So that's a problem. You can't call PI lawyers for this. I mean, you can, but things aren't going to work out good.
Well, they mean well, and they think they know what they're doing,
And we
but
know
it
some
drives
great
me
PI
flipping
lawyers.
crazy.
I mean, we know great PI lawyers, but they just don't understand this stuff.
No, they don't. I get calls from PI attorneys all the time saying, "Hey, will you take the OWCP portion of the case?" And my response is, "Are you willing to split your fees?" Because the claimant should not be paying for two lawyers. The fee is the fee. Split it between two attorneys and move forward. So they just don't understand how to drive value, and that's what results in a higher settlement or a resolution of a case.
This Paul Wedge said Eric has talked me down a time or two when I was stressed out about my injury. And Mabel said Eric Blauer's office is representing me, and I'm so grateful. I'm more mentally at ease.
Well, these cases, you all know, these cases are extremely stressful on people. I mean, I was a federal employee. I never knew anything about OWCP while I was a federal employee. I know a lot about OWCP now. I learn stuff every day, but I spend 10 hours a day doing this stuff. So I think I've seen every kind of case, and then something else comes around the corner. I'm like, God dang, I've never seen that before.
Right.
There's changes at OWCP. You guys know that the average experience level of a claims examiner is going down. So these claims examiners are overburdened with cases. They can't keep up with the work that they have. And that causes stress to the claimants because they want things that they're entitled to. They want the treatment. They want to get paid. I mean, we've got a case that we just took to ECAB where the poor lady has not been paid since, I think, 2020. It's open and shut case. And OWCP continues to deny it. She's living in a car and her kids have been given to somebody else. It's absolutely horrendous. And we're at ECAB, which takes a year for a decision. So that's actually a pro bono case. I don't take many pro bono cases because we help people so often. But this one,
We just don't have time.
So bad. No, we don't. But this lady needed help so bad. And it's not a traditional scheduled award or a third party case. But I get calls occasionally where I just feel so bad for somebody. I'll do something to help them to get the claim accepted. And that's okay. I mean, I've been there. I know how it is when you're down on your luck and you just need that help or somebody to hold your hand to talk you off the edge, because I've seen so many people on the edge just so frustrated with OWCP. You guys see it all the time in your federal injury centers.
Daily. Yeah. Multiple times a day.
Eric, normally I send you a lot, and they don't wind up telling me if they were at fault or not. What do you do? And I know there's really nothing you could do, but what do you do with those people that were in an accident and it was their fault? What do they do then?
Well, they still are entitled to OWCP benefits, even if they're at fault. I had one case in Ohio. God bless her. The poor lady was, I mean, her LLV was literally disintegrated by a truck hauling, 18-wheeler hauling. It was heavy as heck. I want to say like metal, scrap metal. And she swore up one side and down the other that the truck ran the red light. I got a hold of the trooper who investigated the accident. She said, I pulled the video from the 7-Eleven or whatever it was, and clearly she was at fault. So is the question, what do I do when somebody's at fault? The post office is technically responsible for the damages to the other driver at that point in time under the doctrine of responding out superior. The postal worker does not have to go to their own insurance. Although I don't know if the post office mandates that that's part of the contract with rural carriers. I don't know. If I were on the other side, I'd be suing the post office all day long.
Of course.
Deep pockets.
Deeper pockets. Right. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
What else you got?
That's all for now.
So, all right. Just to recap, so this is Eric Blowers. He's our lawyer friend. He's your lawyer friend. He specializes in third-party injuries and schedule awards, which we're not talking about tonight. We're talking about schedule awards on the podcast, the Breaking OWCP podcast. Go look that up and download it, subscribe, and we'll let you know when that's coming. Gini will post it on Facebook and everywhere else so you know what's happening. So we'll do an extensive talk on schedule awards.
Yeah,
but
schedule awards going to take a little time.
Yeah. But tonight we're talking about third-party accidents. Primarily, these are car wrecks on the job. But we talked about some other instances that could be third-party. But I think those are a lot more complicated. I think a car wreck is just like an open and shut. It's either your fault or the other person's fault. And then it's like uninsured, underinsured.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, you know, you may or may not know this, but the investigating officers not always. The investigating officers usually have a set procedure for where they list the drivers. Driver number 1 is at fault. Driver number 2 is a victim. And that tends to be difficult to overcome sometimes. I've had cases where I think the cop was wrong. It's ugly. It's messy when you get in those situations. So you're fighting an uphill battle. But that's the nature of what we do. I like cops, so it's difficult for me to criticize them. But sometimes they just have a hard time figuring stuff out. And now I recommend if I were a rural carrier, I'd have a dash cam in my car all the time. I would.
Rural carriers get dash cams in your car. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I would.
These days they're not that expensive. I mean,
no, they're not that expensive, and they loop. So if you have an accident, you're going to capture everything. But,
yeah, right.
It's I don't know if there's a postal rule on that or not. I don't know.
Marianne Prater said, I can relate to what the attorney said. I was hit and ended up getting only $1,400. 1, because of no cooperation from the post office, and 2, the driver was cited and I'm injured for life.
Right.
What advice would you give them?
Well, the case is settled now.
It's done is done. But if she had to do over again.
I don't know if she had underinsured motorist coverage. If she's injured for life and there were substantial damages there, you can. We had to make a decision today on a case and whether or not we tried to settle the case or went after the person because they had a pretty nice house, but the person lived in Texas. What's the problem with Texas, Chris?
There's too many for me to list any of them.
Well, they have a homestead exemption, but you can't go after a home and a judge.
You can't sue the house in Texas.
Correct. Same with Florida. So every case is different. Every state is different. I've had attorneys I've called before to file a claim, and I'm like, hey, I need your help. This is the situation. We just need to file the claim, and it's going to settle. And I had one guy call me back and said, I thought you were full of crap when you called me, but he made a good bit of money on the case because he did what we needed him to do. And he said, call me anytime. If you guys need help in these cases, call me anytime. We know what we're doing. We know how to resolve these things rather quickly, but more importantly, we know how to make sure you get the necessary care you need. I refer everybody to federal injury centers. They know what they're doing to get the initial paperwork going. If the claimant is near a federal injury center, we're seeing more and more, and we talk about this all the time. People in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota. I had one in Wyoming. You guys don't have a facility there, and they're driving 6 hours to get care, which is ridiculous. And I think, Gini, you told me today there was somebody in Alaska, and I said there are absolutely no OWCP doctors in the state of Alaska. Zero.
No, in most
So-
states, but definitely not Alaska.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
difficult.
I have one last question. There may be more here, but I have one more.
Mhm.
So you're a federal law enforcement officer, or former federal law enforcement officer. You're an FBI agent, right?
Yes.
Before this, and and you and I have never discussed this, I think, but as an FBI agent or a federal law enforcement officer, sometimes like maybe there are days where you're in your law enforcement vehicle, whatever you call it, right, all day long.
Your
You're
bureau.
driving home. Aren't you
Yeah.
kind of like a rural carrier?
You know, it's different because it was a government vehicle, and I was on a evidence response team, so I had to have a vehicle at home because I could respond from home to a crime scene if need be. So yes, I mean, I'm covered from the time I leave until the time I get home. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
And
good.
there's a lot of federal employees out there who have vehicles. There are. It's just the nature of what we do is, you know, rural carriers have their own vehicles and they make money off them. I mean, God bless them. I think it's, 92 or 96 cents a mile right now they're getting paid for using their own vehicles. So they're getting paid for the vehicle, for the gas, for the insurance. Don't skimp on the insurance. Make sure you have plenty of, on at least $100,000 of uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage.
Yeah.
Let's see. Victor said, nice meeting you at the APW seminar in Ocala last year.
Remember Victor? Victor's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
He also said, if you can tell us, what's the percentage of you winning cases?
Do you ever lose?
Yes. I'm trying to think if it's in the last 8 years. I'm trying to think if it's more than on one hand. I mean, outright lose, not many. Probably 5 or 10. But no, I mean, I know how to screen a case. I know if there's an issue. I mean, I've lost some at ECAB, but that may not be losing the case. The case may have been accepted, but I didn't get them paid for a certain period of time that we were appealing to ECAB. So, you know, you say lose. There's been losses I've had at ECAB that really pissed me off because I think I was right. But, you know, that's the nature of being a lawyer. You don't win everything.
Right.
But if you're willing to fight for people, that's what matters. So
That's right.
I think actually absolutely outright losing a case. God, I can't remember the last one. I just can't.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Victor said, can you guys please bring Eric Blowers to our Florida APW convention seminar in Miami?
Oh,
I have a
Eric,
reason.
You don't want to go to Miami, do you?
Especially not with us.
I have a son in Miami in law school, so yes, I'll sacrifice it and come to Miami. Yes, absolutely.
The last time you were in Miami, we were there with you. That was a lot of fun.
Last time I was in Miami, yeah, I can't remember.
Or the time before, maybe. But anyway,
yeah, I can't remember.
It was a good time. Any other questions there?
Dr. Harper said, checking in from Alabama. Chris, I need to know what you're drinking. Keep up the good work.
Come on, Donovan. It's
Bourbon.
iced tea.
Bourbon.
Iced tea. It's sweet tea.
We know what it is.
You can't get that kind of sweet tea in Alabama.
Okay, so Chris, before Eric jumps in, so when somebody gets into an accident, right there, what is the process that they have to go through from the minute they get into the accident?
Okay, so in an accident, we're talking third party. So we're not even to the point where you call your supervisor yet. What do you do before you call your supervisor?
911. I mean, if somebody's hurt, 911. Obviously, that's a really good question. I've had cases, and that one case I talked about where the lady was hit from behind by an Amazon truck. The supervisor made the postal employee wait at the scene until she got there and collected all the mail. If you're injured, go to the hospital. Tell them to pound sand on the mail. I've also seen a really bad accident where a postal employee was killed, where the post office does not have a process in place to deal with these type of situations. The poor postmaster took all the mail home that night, and her husband cleaned it all up, got all the blood and everything off it so they could deliver it the next day. The post office just does not anticipate some of these situations. But
just by the way, you said poor postmaster. That's 2 words that have never been said on Wednesday Night Chats.
You know, I feel bad for some of these postmasters. I mean, I can picture them as a business owner. They don't have enough people to go out and deliver mail, so they end up doing it themselves. I do feel bad for postmasters. And
that's another thing that's never been said on chats.
Not all. I've had some postmasters that are quite the tool, but I mean, some of them, they just want to get the job done, and
Yeah.
they can't hire enough rural carriers, and if they do, they're hiring RCAs, which
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
they have no ownership of their job because they're not career employees yet.
They're getting hosed
So-
so often.
It's difficult. It's difficult. I'm sorry, Gene. Did I answer the question?
Well, okay, so once they get into the accident,
accident.
what do
Okay.
they do? What are the steps they have to do where it comes to, getting the accident, getting their paperwork, and then getting to you?
Well, clearly get medical care first. If they are not at fault, within a day or so, I'd give us a call and say, hey, I was in an accident. This is a situation. If it's something that we're going to say, hey, it's probably not for us, we will make the referral to another attorney. If they're at fault, clearly no attorney is going to take the case anyway. But it's a situation where they've got to get the CA1 filed. It's a CA1, a traumatic injury. You got to get that filed. People, Chris and Ginny, you guys try to teach people this. They've got to go home and file the CA1 online that night.
Right
Get the
away,
CA1
immediately.
filed. Get the CA1
And,
filed.
if they're that badly injured, what do you advise them to do where they're in the hospital?
Get somebody to give us a call. That's a really good question. I've had people call 2 weeks post-accident because they've been in the hospital. They've been in multiple surgeries. You've got to get somebody on your side quickly. And usually they're calling Morgan & Morgan, or Morgan & Morgan sending them a letter and they're calling them back, but they don't realize it's an OWCP case. And then Morgan & Morgan tries to get us involved. And I tell Morgan & Morgan, no, thank you. Because they're very difficult
To work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone should know that most people on here are a member of a union, and your union representatives can do this for you. If you're like incapacitated, you're in a hospital bed, your union reps can speak on your behalf, right? Like they can have anybody do this for them,
well,
right?
I would think, and I would presume that union reps are hear about somebody being in an accident and they're reaching out to the person, I would think.
Right. But they're allowed to do the stuff for them. They can get their CA16 for them, right? There's a lot of things that the union rep can do for the person if they're unable to do it for themselves.
There are. And there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be done, but most people don't have any idea how to do the paperwork. I never knew what a CA1 or a CA2 was when I was a federal employee. I just didn't know. I never dealt with it. And most of these people have no idea. You know that. So thank God you have the resources on your website and telling them what it is and how to get on the eComp, get a account set up on eComp so they can file their CA1. But be over inclusive on the CA1. If you hurt your shoulder, elbow, wrist, right hip, left knee, right ankle, put everything on the CA1.
Don't leave anything out.
Yeah, I've seen OWCP come back and say, well, they didn't say anything about their right ankle on the CA1.
Right.
I see that all the flipping time. And they try to use that against you. So be over inclusive.
Yep.
Right.
So there's been a couple of people that wanted your phone number.
Yeah, what is
So
the
obviously
phone
I'm going to
number?
put your cell number on. And when we put his cell number on,
Please,
you feel free and call him at 2 a.m. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Just
Phone number
blow
is
his phone up. What's your number, Eric?
704
704
607
607.
8870.
All right.
And you're going to get a paralegal initially. And if it's a third party case, let's say, hey, it's a third party case. I need to talk with an attorney. You're going to get myself or Rachel giving you a call back on a third party case to figure out what's going on. But you guys know all day long, I'm writing briefs. I'm deep into cases. And I used to be able to answer the phone. I can't answer the phone anymore. I just got too much.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you've got people that do that. And if they get a call back from Rachel, they should feel really good, right?
Rachel's phenomenal. You guys know that.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's
She is.
tiny, but she's mighty.
Yes.
Yeah, every time she's ever been in the room with me, if I need a lifeline, I call her.
Yeah, she's good.
She's-
She's good.
She's
Really
fantastic.
good. Yep.
For sure. Any other questions there?
And then what is your process once they call you? What happens if they're in a third party?
Well, we assess the case. We determine whether or not we need to bring in another attorney from that jurisdiction. Most times I won't bring in another attorney initially because I know what needs to be done. And we're not sure what damages are. So people, tend to sit there and say, what are you doing? We're waiting to see if you guys know OWCP won't approve an MRI for what? 3 months, 4 months? How long is it now?
Well, I don't know because we get MRIs tomorrow, but other people struggle.
Well,
I'm not about
the
that.
continuum of care, OWCP doesn't want to approve an MRI for a long period of time. So we don't know what the damages even are. And unfortunately, I've seen time and time again people being forced back to work on 2499s, and it turns out that they had a shoulder rotator cuff tear or a slap tear or something like that. That's a big deal because that's going to require surgery. Surgery is $100,000 damages. Just
I don't know how you do a job with a slap tear. Like, how can you do that job? That's unreal.
See it all the time. See it all the time.
That's awful.
All the time. Yeah. And I don't want to be sexist, but postal workers tend to be a little bit older females, at least in the rural carrier routes. And they can't carry a box of dog food. This can't. I mean, I can't. I don't know how they're trying to do it.
Yeah, well, today I had to have my sons pick up a table for me because my back doesn't do that anymore.
Yep. Yeah.
But if I'm a letter carrier, I got to figure it out.
Yep, you do.
I can't bring my sons with me to work. If I could, I would do no work. I guarantee it.
They're wanting to know that number 704-607-8870. Can they text you?
That's a landline, right?
Call?
That's a landline. Yep.
That's
okay, so everybody, you have to call. That you can't text Eric. You have to call, and you'll get somebody in the office.
So the good news is Eric has a real office. In that real office, he has phones. So that's a landline.
Yeah. He doesn't sit at the hotel there.
No, we have two offices, one in Boston, one in Charlotte, North Carolina. We got about 14 people in the offices, and we respond back quickly. I mean, Gini, I think we're responding back within a day now on intakes that you're sending for scheduled awards. When I get a third-party case, if I'm not making the return call, somebody's making a return call within an hour usually, because those cases do require immediate attention.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm getting I'm just the messenger for Eric.
So people are like, so Gini, you work for Eric. What? No, she doesn't. We're all friends. We all work together for a common goal, which is you. And we love Eric. We trust Eric more than we trust any of the other lawyers. No offense to any of the other lawyers. We love Deborah. We love a lot of lawyers.
Oh, there's a lot of good lawyers out there, and I can't do all
Christina up in Seattle, she's great. We love these people, but Eric's the one that we know and trust, and so
we've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. That's right.
When you can't take something federal that someone is calling you about, how do you handle those?
What do you mean it can't take it federal?
Do you refer them out to somebody else?
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, some states are very cantankerous and they have weird rules. Like Michigan is a very weird state. New York is a very weird state. Depending upon who's at fault, you've got to file an action within 90 days in New York. So some states I know, I'm like, oh, that's trouble. I got to get somebody else involved immediately.
Yeah.
So I know when I'm beyond my comfort zone. So I'll bring somebody else in pretty quickly if I'm beyond that comfort zone.
All right.
I think that's all the questions for Eric right now.
Well, Eric, it was awesome having you. Thank you. I know you're there and your son's probably waiting to go to dinner, so we're not going to keep you any longer. But tell him I said thanks for his for his time. I'm sure he's starving.
Yeah. He's probably eaten 3 times since we've been on this. So yeah,
for sure. So just to wrap it up, everyone, this is Eric Blowers. He's a federal workers' comp lawyer. He's the best in the business. His number is posted here. Gini posted it
at the bottom.
You can blow his phone up at 2 a.m. He won't answer because it's an office phone. But yeah, just give him a call if you have any questions. They'll be happy to help you. And
I'm looking forward to Miami. I want to go to Miami. So yes.
Yeah.
Get me to Miami.
I'll get you that info.
That's right. Thank you. So Eric, go to dinner. Thank you so much for your time tonight. And everyone, watch out for the Breaking OWCP podcast with Chris and Gini, because that is going to have Eric, and we're going to talk about schedule awards. So go download it today, because you don't want to miss out on that episode when it comes. And I think we'll be recording that sometime in the next month. I don't know.
2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks. All right.
As soon as I get out of the cold.
What's that?
As soon as I get out of the cold.
That's right. Get out of the cold. Come to Florida. We'll do it live.
Yes, I will. Trust me.
Eric, thanks a lot for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right. See you again soon.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Okay, guys. So
that was attorney Eric freaking Blowers.
Yeah. So let me get to some of these questions, because a lot of you still have some questions.
And we had a lot of our offices on tonight. So thank you all for being here. Look, Dr. Harper, especially. Hello, Dr. Harper, my man. He's the flagship. If you are in Alabama and you don't have an accepted claim, it's because you're living under a rock. Under a rock. Come out from under the rock. Dr. Harper, it's nice to have you tonight.
Yeah. Melissa said, what can we do if we haven't heard back from OWCP about our schedule award?
Yeah, so call your claims examiner and don't worry about it. Just leave a message because all the messages now are transcribed into a document and all documents have to be reviewed. So just say, hey, what's up with my schedule award? Can somebody let me know?
But
And then they
call once.
yeah, don't call like 1,000 times because they don't like that very much. But just call them and leave a voicemail and you'll get a response. That worked on the most extreme case I've ever dealt with. And leaving the voicemail was like the key to making things happen. So go do that.
Jessica Shumis said, my rural union did nothing. Dr. Cooper's office of FIC saved me. I thought the CA1 only came from the supervisor and I couldn't be at fault. What lies we suffer.
Yeah, so I'm not going to badmouth the rural carrier union because I love rural carriers. I love you guys. But Dr. Cooper is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that worked out for you.
See, what Victor said is right. Before you start working for the USPS, go to the orientation and they tell you you will be required to lift up to 70 pounds. Don't go in there, blindsided.
But still, and Victor, I saw that and that's true. But even if you're somebody that can lift 70 pounds,
Oh, wait.
hold on, it doesn't mean that you can't get injured lifting that 70 pounds. Like you can be, like a bodybuilder. You could be the strongest person on earth and bend the wrong direction and it could be 5 pounds and you hurt yourself.
Well, Kristen Rose said up to 75 pounds.
Well, if that's the case, then the job description changed. I've always heard 70, but for me, 70 and 75, they're the same thing. And in my old days, what was I? A personal trainer. So to me, 70 and 75 are the same. They're both freaking heavy, right? That's heavy. I don't want to do a 75-pound dumbbell, but you guys are lifting 70, 75-pound packages all the time. And you can be strong enough to do it, but as soon as you bend the wrong way and lift that weight, you can hurt yourself.
You guys are saying that you're not getting the CA1s from these supervisors. First of all, you don't need the supervisor other than their email address. All you got to do is go to ecomp.dol.gov. You go fill it out. The only thing you should be requesting from your supervisor is a CA16 and the CA17.
That's right. Yeah. Everything else is done on ecomp. And so you have their, like she said, their email address. And they're on the clock as soon as you hit send, right? Like you say, I did my first page, it's your turn. They're on the clock. They now have 10 days. In the old days, you had to get paper, which meant you had to convince a supervisor that it was their job to give it to you. Last week, I was really, really hard on the supervisors, like really hard, like way harder than Woodshed Night, like maybe the hardest I've ever been.
Yeah.
So much so I had to take it down because it was awful. Like I was really, really mean to them and they deserved every bit of it. So tonight I'm taking it easy, but sometimes they're idiots.
Yeah. Melissa said, I have a cervical herniation with no nerve damage. I'm retired. And am I capable of getting a 6th edition?
Yeah, it just depends. The spine is not rateable in the impairment ratings, but if it causes problems into your arms or hands, then you can potentially get an impairment rating in a schedule award.
Julie Chase said, I'm 56 and I have a torn rotator cuff. That is a torn all the way down, as well as my 2 other tears in my shoulders. I've been working 6 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day with this injury. They initially told me it was arthritis until I got an MRI and it showed the damage. It was clearly work-related, as I have been. How long will it take to get approved once I've sent all my documentation? It's been 2 weeks now. I'm working in severe pain every day.
Okay. So first of all, torn rotator cuff, that sounds like a CA1. Now, I can see how this can happen over time. So I'm not saying it didn't develop over 2 or more shifts, but it sounds like traumatic. Okay. And in that case, you should have gotten continuation of pay. That's box 15, letter A of the CA1. If you fill out a CA2, you can't have COP. All right. That's just how it goes. But you should be getting paid if you're off of work. And I don't see how you can possibly do your job with a torn rotator cuff like that. So did you elect continuation of pay? Because, that's like a make or break situation. And I would go back and try to get it if it's been within 30 days of the injury. But to answer your question, how long does it take? There's no time frame. It takes as long as it takes. 2 weeks is nothing. I mean, we've had claims approved in the first week, but that's uncommon. It normally takes 30 to 60 days to get approved claims. So if you have sick and annual, use it. But I hope that you elected continuation of pay, because that'll give you up to 45 days of time off. If it's a CA1 injury that you reported within 30 days of the injury.
Melissa said, regarding the schedule award, is there anyone else we can contact? I haven't heard from anything going on a few months now.
Okay, so send us a private message on Facebook so we know what the situation is, and because we can definitely help you with if you want to contact somebody else. We can help you with that.
What did this one say? I can't see that.
Which one are you looking at?
The last one.
It says, I have an ankle injury since 2009. I got hit by a hillo. I'm not sure what that is, but can I get permanent payoff from the post office? No, sorry. So you can't sue the post office. Your only permanent thing is the schedule award. An ankle does qualify for a schedule award, but you got to be at maximum medical improvement. I don't want to go too deep into schedule awards because we're going to go deep. Like we're going to do a huge deep dive into that on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's going to get like crushed. We're probably going to shut down the internet with schedule awards on the podcast.
Okay, Sue, can you explain what a schedule award is?
It's essentially a final settlement from the government for injuries that are covered. Not all injuries, like the spine is not covered. The brain, shockingly, is not covered. Like if you had a concussion, you're not covered. So, but it's a final settlement for people that have injuries that are approved and that are covered, like extremity injuries, arms and legs, in OWCP.
All right. Okay, so that's all the questions we have, and I mean Eric is already gone, but we wanted to
to the
say
beginning and just tell us which offices we're on tonight.
Yeah,
I'm always interested in that.
And we want to say thank you to Eric Blowers. No, I can't scroll; it doesn't let me.
So Cheryl asked, when are you doing the podcast on schedule awards? So it's a scheduling issue. It's sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to record it, and then our guy Robert is going to edit it and then post it. We're going to bring Eric to Florida right here to our studio, and we're going to do it live. It's going to be awesome. We'll be live on Facebook as well, and YouTube. So
only on the Breaking OWCP
Facebook
page,
Facebook page, and on our YouTube page. So you can watch us there live, but it'll also be on the podcast forever. Dr. Dorfman, what's up? Melbourne, Titusville, and Orlando, Florida. We have a new office in Orlando, Florida. Dr. Dorfman out of Melbourne and Dr. Lee and Dr. K out of Pinellas Park and Land O'Lakes, Florida, teamed up. And they opened up this office in Orlando, and it's beautiful. We went there for a meet and greet a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I don't even know. It's been a blur. And it's a beautiful office, great parking, easy access. But the key to the whole thing is that these are some of our top doctors, and they all teamed up and said, hey, Orlando, we're going to help you because you guys needed help.
Victor, I know you sent this question and Mr. Chris didn't answer it. So I'm going to make sure he answers it tonight
for you. Did you just call me Mr. Chris?
Mr. Chris.
I like the sound of that.
Somebody says that and it sounds so cute.
Can you, from now on, can you call me Mr. Helms?
You must be out of your stinking mind.
She's like, you're not your father.
May, can I private message you about schedule awards? Okay. If you messaged me about schedule awards, this is all I can do. Get your name, your real name, not your Facebook name, your real name, your phone number, and what body part. And what I do is I take that information and then I send it to Eric. And again, I don't work for Eric.
She's not Eric's employee.
And I know we post, you know,
I'm her employee.
Yeah.
Whose employee is she going to be?
Yeah.
If I'm her employee, I must be like the assistant to the assistant.
And you can ask Eric, this is my employee. And yes, I am the boss. So sorry.
Anyways, Juanita's on from McKinney and Bedford and Dallas. I'm just saying it before it goes away. If I see if North Texas is here, I love North Texas. I went to the University of North Texas.
So when you do send me, if you send me anything on third party or on schedule award or OPM disability, any of that stuff, retirement disability, social security disability, again, I need your name, your phone number, and what you want me to get the information from what you message me over to Eric. I don't do anything from that, but send it. I know you guys say the office doesn't call me back. I don't have any say or control over his employees. So this is my employee right here.
let me do this before it goes too far. So Carly out of Redding, California. We love Carly.
I love Carly.
I love your whole union, but I especially love you, Carly. You're really special. She's always looking for doctors in her area. Like she is so proactive that like she gets the whole concept of what we're doing in OWCP. And she realizes the biggest problem is there's no damn doctors, right? And I'm sorry, Salt Lake
Darn.
City, you're not going to be put this in your office. But there's no doctors, which is the biggest problem in OWCP. It's why we have this franchise with all these offices, and we're growing. But Carly, you're actively looking for doctors to join federal injury decisions. I think that is so fantastic. But she wants to know, other than just being a good doctor, what should I be telling people that we're looking for? Well, okay, so we're looking for a beautiful office. I hate offices that are trash. Like if you walk in and you're uncomfortable, I don't want it. So that's number one. Two, there's got to be medical doctor. Got to have an MD, also a nurse practitioner and a PA. They've got to have the right kind of treatment staff so that they can do one-on-one treatment and get you back to work. We don't cut corners at all. We're super compliant. We care more about compliance than we care about anything else. And so if there's somebody also that's a felon, I don't want to know them, obviously. But that's what we're looking for. Adequate staff, space, and equipment so that we can follow the rules and get people back to work.
I think that's it. I know a lot of you asked schedule award questions, and again, Eric was only focusing on third-party injuries. And those of you that are gonna hop on, tell your friends they can go back and watch the replay after. Don't forget, we are on all social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if any of your friends don't want social media, they can go free on YouTube and find us. Go ahead, follow, like, subscribe, share, and share, especially those of you that are driving
Did you
as
remember
a
to say share?
federal government employee, or you have to take a bus from one parking lot to your destination.
Yeah.
Pay attention to this video. As Eric was telling you about rule carriers, letter carriers, semi-truck drivers, TSA workers. So there's a lot involved. Okay, so he went over dog bites, he went over slip and falls.
Car
Remember,
wrecks.
if you do get a dog bite, please Google this your state that you're in for what is the rule for a dog bite.
Did you say like free dog bite? One free dog
Yeah,
bite?
one meaning when it says one free dog bite, what it means is there's nothing you could do.
What a stupid rule.
I
Okay.
know it's stupid, but that's the rule.
My
It's a
arm is
free.
falling off of me because a dog bit me, but it's only the first time the dog did it, so I can't sue anybody. That makes no
And
sense.
don't forget, if it is at a homeowner, you're going to go after the homeowner's insurance.
Real quick, Christina says, is it common to go to a second opinion doctor twice? I've seen it happen 3 times once. It's not that uncommon. Not that uncommon. And they send you to second opinion doctors for a variety of reasons. Yeah. So it can be done multiple times.
You private message me as soon as the live is done. You go on Messenger and go ahead and private message me. And tomorrow morning, I will answer all your questions.
So look, everyone, go to breakingowcp.com and download my newest book, Breaking OWCP, Volume 4, 25 Things You Can Do to Win in OWCP. If you've never heard of Breaking OWCP, then you're probably struggling with OWCP. I wrote 4 books, Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all called Breaking OWCP. They're all at breakingowcp.com. And they're all super cheap. And all you got to do is download it to your phone. Well, why would I do that? Because everyone keeps their phone with them. Guys have their phone in their pocket. Women carry their phone wherever women carry phones. But it's always on your person. And so you can literally put Breaking OWCP in your pocket. Now, this one, the 25 Things You Can Do to Win in OWCP, it's my 4th book. I wrote the first 3, and I was really proud of myself after each one of them. But each time I said there's something missing. And what was missing is the rule carrier in rural Nebraska, in Iowa, in North Dakota. What was missing is, how do I help those people where there's no doctors?
Right.
Because it's great to know the rules, but what are you going to do about it? And so the 25 things you can do to win in OWCP is for somebody who has a doctor who's a total idiot. But that's what you have, and you got to do something about it. And so I wrote a book that's just for you, where you don't have federal injury centers. You don't have any options, but you still have a right to win, right? And so the 25 things you can do to win in OWCP is for you. It's for people that just don't have access anywhere else. Now, if you're somewhere where there's a federal injury centers, or you can get with Eric Blowers, you're going to be great. But wouldn't it be nice to speak the language?
Yeah.
And, this takes something, OWCP is like freaking Japanese, and it puts it into 4th grade English. So everyone can understand. You go through each of the 25 things and you realize, okay, hey, this isn't so overwhelming. I can do this. One of the reasons only 14% of claims are approved, or people have approved claims, is because most people won't even attempt their claim. They won't attempt it because it's scary or they don't understand it. Well, I made it to where it's super easy. There's just 25 things. That's not overwhelming.
Right.
And one of the things is forget your supervisor's feelings. It's like, that's easy to do. It's easy to forget your supervisor's feelings. The other 24 are just as easy, though.
So the last two housekeeping things next Wednesday is hold on. Next Wednesday is the
Wait.
28th of February, and we have NALC President Rich Ray from Staten Island, who is going to be on with us live next week just to talk about what's going on with NALC in New York and how
That
Federal Injury Centers has helped his carriers.
that
And
is the best thing I've heard since hearing Eric Blauer is going to be on the podcast.
yeah, and then the two of them got together and left us out.
I was pretty jealous.
Yeah, we
I
were.
saw the picture. So Rich Ray is a good friend of mine. I mean, I can easily say, look, seriously, I love Rich Ray. I mean, love him like a brother. This guy cares more about people than even I do, which is hard to do. And I kind of have like watery eyes, which is kind of weird.
We love Rich.
Rich is an amazing man. Amazing. So you got to tune in for that. He is an incredible union president. I don't think he's president anymore because the two branches merged,
Yeah.
but he's still an officer.
And he's very honest about everything, very transparent about everything in NALC.
And he's hardcore. That dude fights to the death. So definitely check out the Wednesday night chats of Rich Ray. That's going to be fire.
So that's next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Wait, next Wednesday is Rich?
Yeah, next Wednesday
I
is
can't
Rich.
hardly wait.
Yeah. And then we have, as you guys know, we did our open house in Manhattan, and now we are headed back to Manhattan on March 28th. We're going to have a sip and socialize, some drinks, some appetizers. You get to meet our team. Eric won't be at the Manhattan office.
He was there last time, though.
With Dr. Malemi. So I put the flyers up. I will be putting them up weekly, probably daily.
And in Manhattan, look, I know it's not called Manhattan, it's Manhattan. But you have to learn like the dialect wherever you're at, right? Manhattan. But he's a PM&R doctor, which is physical medicine and rehab. And I said, hey, Dr. Malemi, how do you explain what PM&R means? He goes, it's orthopedics without surgery. What a great specialty. And so he's a high-level specialist, which means like second opinion doctors can't get over on him easily. So if you're in that area, if you're just in New York, go check him out because, when you get a second opinion, they typically hose the claims. But when they're going up against a PM&R doc, it's tougher for them. He's not a general practitioner. He's a specialist.
Yeah.
So Dr. Malemi in Manhattan is
he's an MD.
He's awesome. And by the way, he looks like Christopher Walken.
He does.
He's such a good looking guy.
He is.
It's annoying.
So we have that again. Sip and Social. Check out the flyer. RSVP if you want to attend. Again, that's March 28th. And then April 4th, we are heading to Norwood, Massachusetts, which Eric will be there and his whole team that is located in Boston. Again, this is for anybody in AFGE and anybody, any union, any craft with AFGE or USPS. You are allowed to attend. We're going to have, again, drinks and appetizers. And we will probably be doing a little mini OWCP training like Chris always does, just for about half an hour, 45 minutes. So,
I look forward to it in the Boston area.
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting the NALC folks up there.
Yeah, we are excited to seeing all of you.
I mean, all of you, but in particular the NALC folks. We have some stuff to talk about.
But like I said, right before this live, the flyers are posted. So go take a look at that, print it out, send it to your friends, post it in your group pages. We will be there. We can't wait to see everybody. And again, next Wednesday, we have Rich Ray, NALC from Staten Island. And we're just going to have a bunch of guests. And I think we're coming up to the end of the first quarter. So we're going to be heading to Woodshed Night.
Oh, I can't wait. So
and that's where he's going to be fired up.
I kind of had Woodshed Night last week.
No,
but
he's going to take last week and turn it into.
I'll do better next time. I won't be so mean. But look, here's the deal. And we're going to end with this. You all are getting hosed all the time. You just get screwed over time after time in OWCP. That's what happens. And last week I was just fired up about it. And then like people are telling you, don't go get help. What does that even mean? Don't go get help. Well, don't go to federal injury centers. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, all we do is win. And we do it well.
Yeah.
We're very effective, very efficient. So anyways, Woodshed Night's gonna be fun. I hope that I can just limit it to just hurting the supervisors that night.
Yeah, I mean, if there is any stewards or union officials that want to come on our podcast,
Oh, we'd love to have you.
or our chats, please message me, or the ones that have my number, text me. Carly, if you want to be on our podcast, you can.
Oh,
Victor,
Carly, please come on our podcast. That'd be awesome. Victor, of course, in Miami. Let's
we
do
will
something.
definitely do something in Miami.
I'll bring the
100%.
microphones.
Yeah.
I'll bring the microphones.
So
We're
it'll
doing
be
it.
fun.
We're doing it.
And we may bring our podcast guy too. So it's going to be awesome.
Oh no, Robert, I think is coming.
Is he?
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna have so
Okay.
much fun.
So look forward to seeing all of you at these Sippin' Socials. And don't forget, you still have time, if you are a union official, to have us scheduled in to train your union at your state or national convention. We've already been scheduled for APW Miami, APW California, BOP National Convention in Las Vegas. So we are
Wait,
super
where?
excited. Las Vegas.
Where?
Las Vegas.
Oh, I can't wait.
So
yeah, I feel like I haven't been there in like 2 weeks.
if you're on here, get the message to your president. I did pin everything that we require for union conventions. There's no money. So don't worry about
Wait,
that.
none?
$0.
Well, how the heck did we get there?
We just book a flight from Gini's flight agency and we go.
So we just pay for it ourselves?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's easy. Invite us.
How do I get a hold of these podcasts, Chris?
Go to wherever you listen to podcasts. I personally listen to it on the Apple Podcast app. Most people, I think, listen to Spotify, but there's a lot of places to listen. And you just go download the Breaking OWCP podcast with Chris and Gini. And then it'll be there, and then you can just go click on it. And when there's a new episode, and we haven't put out a lot of new episodes because we're on vacation for like almost 3 weeks. We put out a couple while we're there.
Yeah.
But we'll be doing some more. But the Schedule War one's going to be fire. You're going to love it.
Yeah, we're probably going to record maybe like 4 or 5 hours with Eric, and then it's going to be all chopped up into little pieces. So pay attention because he's going to go into extreme detail. And I know a lot of you always asking, well, what is the rating for my arm? He's not going to go into that.
Well, and you're not going to have an opportunity to ask questions on that because it's a podcast. But did you say chop them into little pieces?
Chop them into little pieces.
Freaking podcast serial killer here.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys, we will see you next week with Rich Ray, NALC.
Can't hardly wait.
From Staten Island. And if you guys have any questions, don't forget you can message me on the messenger. And don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe. We are on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
And when something new comes out, we'll probably be there too.
We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.